Terraform getting started with Azure. I am assuming you are new to Terraform and planning to learn Terraform and wanted to start on wondering where to start learning the Terraform. So you are right, you are in right place to learn Terraform. So in this episode, I'm going to discuss basically prepare you for how to provision the Azure resources using the Azure using the Terraform. So in this episode, here is the agenda for this episode. Basically, I will start with creating the Azure Git repository. So you need the Git repositories to store the Terraform script because you are going to provision the Azure resources using the Terraform. Terraform is used for build the infrastructure as a source code. So you need the source code, source control system. You can use either Azure Git repo or Bitbucket or any kind of the source control system. So that is the step number one. And the step number two, you clone the or initiate the repo or clone the repo to the local host so that you can start working on that. And in step three, we are going to create required files and create the project setup. And in step four, we will discuss some of the details about where do you look for, how do you look for the resources, what are some of the documentations from Azure or documentation from HashiCorp Terraform open source platform. And also in step five, we will discuss installing or downloading the required tools like downloading and installing the Terraform, downloading and installing the command line interface. These are the two installers you need. Make sure that you have them ready before write the Terraform script. And then we will talk about the backend configuration and set up the remote state in step number 7, and then actually create one of the resource, maybe the Azure resource group or virtual machine, and then deploy and talk about some of the commands. So this is the plan for this session. So let's begin creating the Azure Git repository. So assuming that you already have the Azure Git repository credentials. So in case if you are new, you may want to set up the Azure Git repository. So if you want to create the new repository, click on the new repository and provide the required name, appropriate name. And I've already created a repository called Terraform, and this is my existing Terraform script. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So assuming that you already have the Terraform Git repository, and then the second step, you are going to clone the repository. So you can use the command like git clone on your command prompt, or the cmd git or the git cmd, something like git cmd if you have already installed. So you can use this command. This is a URL from where you are going to clone b4 branch from the main. I'm going to use the this path. So if you have any spaces, you may want to use the double quotes and clone your repository. So I've already cloned my code, and this is my text editor. I'm using the Visual Studio Code for creating the Terraform script. So you can use any text editor, but this is a lightweight version of the text editor to start writing the Terraform scripts. So once you clone the code, and I'm assuming that you already have the Visual Studio Code installer. In case if not, you can install the Visual Studio Code. And after that, I'm going to create a couple of files here, which we are going to use. So the extension for the Terraform files is the .tf. So the main.tf, I'm going to use the actual main.tf. This is my output.tf. Also, I will need variable.tf to keep the variables. So I will create variable.tf. And I will also use the backend.tf. I will talk about all these folders. Let's create these folders and then talk about this, how we are going to use these projects and files during the actual creation of the Terraform script. So I also need the execute.tf PS1 PowerShell script file. So this is optional, but it is going to be useful. I will explain how this will be used in your Terraform script. So for now, these are some of the files we need for running the Terraform script. And in the next step, I'm going to talk about, so what are some of the references or some of the documentations you can look for if you are new to Terraform and wanted to learn before actually jumping into the practical. So one of the articles from the documentation from Microsoft is Terraform on Azure documentation. So I would say this is your entry point to start learning Terraform. You can see what is the Terraform is all about. So Terraform is basically the HashiCorp open source tool provisioning and managing the cloud infrastructure. So the cloud, when I say cloud, it could be Azure cloud, it could be AWS, or it could be Google Cloud, or any of the cloud service providers. So Terraform is kind of a neutral, supports all these service providers using the command line interface. So, and I don't need to tell you, but when it comes to the automate the infrastructure, so some of the benefits like avoiding the potential human errors or deploying the same template for multiple times or different environments. It also reduces the actual development or execution cost when you are using the automating the infrastructure. So those are some of the documentations you can look at here, and so especially this is another important link. You can start because you are going to use the Visual Studio Code extension. So you can look for what are some of the extensions you need to install when you start using the Visual Studio Code. So in this case, I'm using extension called Azure Terraform. So you can search for the extensions in your Visual Studio Code. So I've already installed some of those extensions on my system. So you can search for Azure Terraform. This is one of the installer I have already done. And then if you can also install this extension, which is going to be useful for highlighting the syntax. Otherwise, you will see the black and white syntax. So if you want to have your syntax highlighted, Terraform syntax highlighted, install this tool as well. So those are some of the things you can look for here. And if you are not installed Azure account, you can also install the Azure account. And here is the implementation for the Terraform code. So I will talk about this implementation in a minute. So we looked at the Visual Studio Code extensions and installations. So these are the two extensions you may want to install in the Visual Studio Code so that you can start the Terraform thing. So this is the main website where the Terraform, the open source tool, you will get all the documentations if you want to see getting started with. So you can look for some of the documentation here. So for example, Terraform Cloud. So in the getting started, you can look for, if you are looking for AWS, this is the AWS getting started. So I'm focusing more on the Azure part. So I'm sure if you are watching for the first time, make sure that you can go through this to understand the step-by-step to use those commands, Terraform commands, and understand some of the Terraform concepts by watching these videos. But let me focus more on the practical side of it. So these are the Terraform getting started videos. So now let's start installing and downloading the Terraform. So this is the link you can use to download the Terraform. So I'm going to play this video because I've already installed downloaded the Terraform on my system. So I will play this. So you can play, if you are Windows developer, you can use
Terraform executable on a Windows. Start by visiting Terraform's downloads page. Find the Windows package. Download the Terraform zip archive. Downloading Terraform, unzip the package and install it. Find the zip file in your downloads folder. Terraform executable is inside the zip archive. Choose to unzip the file. I'll install it in a new folder. Terraform. File. You'll also make sure that the Terraform binary is available on your search for and open. Edit your environment variable. Find the path environment variable and enter value and enter the directory where you installed the Terraform binary. Open the PowerShell window. Verify that the Terraform binary is installed correctly.
So that's the installer part. I've already, as I mentioned, I've already installed, and in my C drive, I've kept the Terraform exe file. And also, if I want to test whether the Terraform is installed or not correctly, configured or not correctly, you can use this command Terraform help. So make sure that if you are getting any error like this, so very first time when I installed and configured the environment variable, I got this error. So make sure that you restart your system to see that the Terraform commands you will be able to run. So once you open that, so you are going to use the new terminal. In the new terminal, by default, it opens the command prompt. So maybe you want to switch to the PowerShell. So you can, I'm sure all these you are already aware of it. So after the Terraform installation and the configuration, the environment variable, the next step is to install the command line Azure CLI. So you can use this link to install the Azure CLI because you're going to use some of the AZ commands. So you can install this. Once you're installed, probably you want to make sure that the installer is working as expected. So you can check AZ version. So in my case, I've installed the 2.3.34.1, which is the latest version of the Terraform. So even you can use the Terraform version command to see what version of the Terraform is being installed. So this is the Windows 64 and V1 1.7. That's the Terraform version installed on my system. So once you confirm that the Terraform and the Azure CLI both are installed, and you are pretty much ready for running the Terraform commands. But before you run the Terraform commands, make sure that you also set up the backend configuration. So this is very critical and important. So there are two ways to run the Terraform file, the Terraform command. So either you can maintain the state locally or maintain the state remotely. So I'm going to talk about managing the state remotely so that the multiple team members can work on the same state. So in order to manage the Terraform state, as I mentioned, I'm not going through the theory part, so you can watch some of these videos to understand what is the state and other concepts of the Terraform. But what you need is you need the storage account with the container to manage the state file. So let me first create the state file. So I'm going to, I have used the backend .tf file to configure the state of the Terraform. So let me bring some of my existing code for the backend. So here is the configuration need in the backend.tf file. So I would say Terraform backend, this is a resource provider, Azure RM. and a resource group where my storage account is placed, and this is my storage account name, and this is my container name, and this is the state file which is going to be placed in the Azure storage account. So that means you need the storage account, you need the container, so that when I use this backend.tf file for managing the state, these my Terraform script will work. So log into the Azure portal. Once you log into the Azure portal, I've already created the storage account. So if you are creating for the first time, so you can click on create and specify the storage account name and the resource group where you want to create the storage account. For example, this is the storage account. You click on next and create the storage account. So creating the storage account is easy. Once you create the storage account, click on the container and then click on new container and provide the name. So I specify the Terraform as my container name, so you can give any name. And once the Terraform file is created, so this is my previous state. So this is going to be automatically created. So I can delete so that I will be recreating the state file here. So this is the place where your state file is going to be placed when you are running the Terraform script. So I'll discuss more about the execution plan and the Terraform, the apply commands. But for now, you need the storage account, you need the container for managing the Terraform, and you also need this backend.tf file where you specify the resource group name where the storage account is located and the name of the container. And you can give any name here for managing the state. So I say Terraform state file.json file. So this is the backend configuration which you need before running the Terraform. At this point, you are pretty much ready for running the Terraform scripts. So let me recap what we have done. So you created a Git repo and you cloned the repo and you created these files, and we have updated only the backend.tf file. I'm going to use the remaining files now. And we also installed the Visual Studio Code and some of those extensions so that you will be able to get the syntax highlighted and you will be able to run the Terraform commands. So now you have installed Terraform, you have installed the Azure CLI. Now also configured the storage account with the container and the for managing the state file. Now actually start creating the Terraform script. In order to create the Terraform script, so I'm going to use this main.tf where the Terraform scripts can be written. So this is the code you need to start the Terraform. So this is the Terraform syntax. This is basically telling the Terraform that I'm using the Azure RM provider for running the Terraform scripts. So you need this script for any resource you are creating, any resource you are planning to create. This is the entry point. And top of that, let's say if I want to create a resource group, so let me copy paste the resource group script. So this is my resource group script. So you have to say resource and the resource provider syntax for resource group. So everything starts with Azure RM, that's the provider name, and underscore the resource name. So in this case, the resource group. So the syntax will be Azure RM underscore resource underscore group. So this is how the syntax for the Terraform for creating the resources. And you can give any name here. This is kind of the suffix uniquely identifying your resource in the Terraform script. So I will discuss further, but so this is the Terraform syntax. This is the name, something you can give any name. You can say RG1, RG2 or anything, but I would strictly follow the Azure naming conventions here so that you can the you will be able to create the resources with a consistent. And then we need a name and a location for creating the resource group. And here you can also give the name of the resource, let's say resource group 1, RG1, or you can read the data from variable. In this case, I'm trying to read the data from resource variable. So in order to read the data from the variable, you need to say var dot and the name of the variable. So that means I need to create a variable for my resource group. So click on here, say variable, name of the variable, resource underscore group underscore name, and the data type, and also the default value. And also in case if you are using the variable, in the pipeline, you are using the parameterized syntax. So in that case, this may be overridden, and you can write the description here. So this is my name of the variable. Let me also copy the location for, so this is the location where my resource group is going to be located. So in order to read the variable for the location, so this is the name of the location. So what we have done is we added the resource in the main.tf file and reading the values from variables. In order to read the values from the variable, you need to declare those variables with this syntax in the variable.tf file. And finally, you can keep the output file. So let me copy the output file here. So in order to output, you need to specify the resource group name. I'm going to output the resource group name, and this is the reference of the resource group. So you should say whatever the name is given here, for example, in the main.tf. So Azure RM underscore resource group dot RG. That's how you will be referring them, and then name, and then name. If you want to print the location, it's going to be similar to this, but here you will say location. So that's how you will be adding the syntax in the output.tf file. Now we have the main.tf file, variable.tf file, and output.tf file. Now run this syntax, run this Terraform in the Azure. So now we created the resource group using the Terraform, and now we are going to actually connect to Azure and run this Terraform script in the Azure. So in order to run the Terraform script, so I'm going to log into Azure first. So as soon as you enter the AZ login, it will prompt for asking the username and the password. So you will enter the username and the password. So it says in 10 seconds, it will be closing, and you already connected. So if you go back to here, you will see that you are now connected to your Azure account. In case if you have more than one account here, you may want to set the required, the required tenant or the subscription, so that you are not using the multiple tenants. So let me copy some of the commands I'm going to use in the execute.ps file. So the purpose of the execute.ps ps1 PowerShell script file is to keep the commands in handy, so that when you are working, you may want to run the commands frequently. So I will be keeping all my commands here so that I can copy and paste. For example, if I have multiple resource groups subscriptions here, I can set one subscription so that I can work with one subscription. And this is the Terraform initiate syntax, the command. So you can simply say Terraform init, so that is something will work for the local. But since I'm using the remote state Terraform file, so I'm going to use the backend config and then connect to the storage account and give the resource group name and the storage account name. and then read the value or the key to connect to the storage account. So this is the command you can use to connect to the Terraform. You can use to connect to storage account. So initializing the backend successfully configured the resource Terraform, and then you can try running the Terraform plan to see any changes that are required to your infrastructure. So the next command I'm going to use is Terraform plan. So now, what is the Terraform plan? So Terraform plan basically compares the current state with already executed state, because the Terraform you are running in an incremental mode. So that means you can run Terraform multiple times, right? So when you are making any changes in the script and rerunning, what the Terraform plan will do is it prepare the execution plan, meaning compare the data with the current state and the actual environment. So if I go to the storage account, which I was talking about earlier, let's see if the state file got created in the Terraform. So Terraform, because I already created executed the terraform.initiate, so this file got created. So you can download and see what it contains. So basically this contains empty. So this is the file which is actually managing the state of the Terraform script. So when you are running in incremental mode, it will append the new changes, if it is you are adding anything new, that will say added new changes. If you are trying to destroy something, it will say something is getting destroyed. All that is managed in this state file. So that is something created as part of the Terraform initiate. And when I use the Terraform plan, it is going to say compare with the actual environment and the state file to see if there are any changes. So in a minute, it will show you the difference between the state file and the actual environment as part of the Terraform plan. So now the Terraform plan is saying that there is one getting added, no changes, and nothing is getting destroyed. Because I'm running for the first time, so this resource group is getting created. This is the name of the resource group. This is the location where the resource group is going to be created. The next command I'm going to use is Terraform apply. So Terraform apply will actually run your script in the environment, in the Azure environment, and create the resources. But before applying or before running, it will confirm, make sure that are you sure you want to run the script. So I'm waiting for that command to show. So now again, it is asking enter a value whether you want to create this resource. So again, confirming that how many getting created, any changes or anything getting destroyed. So you can say yes, so that it will actually create the resource group with this name. So going back to the Azure portal, let me see if there is a resource group. So this is something I've already created earlier. So while running, it is actually saying the resource group with this already exists, because I created the state file again, but I have not deleted the resource. So you may want to delete and rerun the script, or so let me delete. So I've deleted the resource group because, as I mentioned, I deleted that resource group earlier and I deleted the state file. But when I'm using the new state, so there is a conflict between the earlier run and the new one. So with this state file, I recreated the state file. So I have to make sure that the existing resource should be deleted before running this one. So I'm going to do it again. For example, I will say Terraform validate. So validate the syntax. If you have done any mistakes in the Terraform syntax, it's going to validate. So I'm going to validate that. And then you can say terraform.plan. So it's going to create the plan again. And then I will say Terraform apply. So Terraform resource group got created. Now quickly check in the Azure portal. Resource group. Let me go to other resource group. So the new resource group got created. And if you see, there are no tags here. So I'm going to add a tag as part of the next iteration so that in the incremental mode, when I run the same Terraform commands, it should work as expected. So this is the output, which shows that this is the resource group got created, part of the previous one. So what I'm going to do is I will say add business unit as a tag. And in order to rerun the script, I'm going to say Terraform validate to make sure that there are no syntax errors. And then Terraform plan. And Terraform plan will show how many changes part of the new execution. So basically, it will say how many resources added, how many changes happened, are there any deletions as part of the new changes. So this is how it will display. So this is the new one getting added. New one is added in the existing resource group. So I will say Terraform apply. So the new changes are applied. If I go back to the resource group, I can see a new tag being added. So that's how you are going to add the new changes. So I hope this is helpful. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about more topics on the Terraform. Thank you.